competing in, we are repeating in, we are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.
So, warmly welcome to this broadcast today, where we were going to explore the new living and learning organizational paradigm, and we are some people around the world to do that. I'm Stella Nordahl, and together me here in the studio is Sten. And Sten, we also have more people with us. Will you give us some kind of a short framework for what we are going to explore together?
Yes, absolutely, and very welcome. We have two people online here as well. It's Bo and it's Patrick from Holland.
Yeah, Patrick, if you say something, I think you will come into...
Yeah, hi. Thanks for the invitation from Holland. Yeah.
Super.
Yes, hello everybody. Nice to be with you.
Very welcome. Yeah, we had this workshop here will be a way of see how we can create the content for an event, and we will go into that a little further. But I think first I would like to set up some framing or framework for this workshop. We think we're starting with a short check-in, and so we can have a little longer presentation of ourselves, our expectations, what intentions we have, maybe what we can see as what will be a success for this event. And also we will discuss a little about if we need to have any documentation or who will be the facilitator for this workshop. And then we continue and to set the purpose and the goal for today's this digital or hybrid session. And we also think that the workshop method, maybe we can have a little dialogue about that, because we like to have a very openly and exploring way of how to create a workshop live. So we will use this as a dialogue in this for 1 hour, I think.
Yeah.
Mm. So should we just take around the table and have a very short presentation who we are, and then maybe you can also say something about your expectations or your intentions for this workshop. Should you start, Bo?
Okay. Yes, nice to be with you. I'm a former industrial leader and was during the 80s involved in a couple of turnarounds in 2 different industries. And during that time, I really learned that all the knowledge necessary to turn around business and industry is really among the employees. They have all the knowledge, but unfortunately, it's filtered away through the different layers of managers. So you can't reach it. So I really came to the conclusion we have to do something else. We have to organize businesses in a totally different way, where all the collective knowledge, all the collective wisdom that is really there come to play much better. And since then, when I left the industry in the 90s, and since then, the last 20 years, I've been working with what we today call team organizations. That are organizations that are self-managed, built on self-management and self-organizations, and they're also self-healing. So I've learned quite a lot during the way, and I would love to share the experience with you.
Thank you, Boo. What's your expectation and your intentions with this workshop here today?
Well, my expectations is that we will still take another step forward. This pandemic, with the hybrid work that has developed through it, has also increased the interest in the world for really creating truly self-organizing and self-management organizations. So for me, that's a fantastic moment really right now. The increased interest in the world for these types of organizations that are truly humanized, that are resilient, and they are adaptive. Because working agile, as people have been talking about the last 10, 15 years, that's not enough. A process can be agile, but it's not enough. It has to be self-organizing, it has to be resilient and adaptive. So it seems that that trigger point that I have been waiting for the last 25 years, and many, many, many colleagues with me, is really happening now.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much, Boo. Patrick, who are you, and what's your expectations and intentions for this event?
Thank you very much. I'm Patrick from Holland, Patrick Bijman. I'm chairman of SOL Netherlands, and SOL stands for Society of Organizational Learning, an international community of people learning from each other to each other on learning organizations, and that's really my passion, learning organizations, and especially learning culture. For me, the word consciousness always comes first. Making people conscious, teams conscious, organizations conscious about what they are doing. Consciousness is the first step in learning, and that's my ambition. So for today, my expectations are quite simple: that we talk and have an open discussion on how to organize this event in end of May. So no more, no less.
Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. Should we continue with Stella? Who are you, and what's your expectation and intentions in this topic?
Yeah, my name is Stella Nordahl, and I will start out by saying that I had 15 years ago, something like that, in the toughest time in my life. My newborn daughter got sick in leukemia, and when she died, I realized that the future wasn't something I was supposed to be prepared for. It was something that I created, and that was a very hard realization when it came. It like some kind of an insight that struck me like in the middle of solar plexus. And then I realized that the world wasn't as I was told. It was another world that I experienced that wasn't described by the story I was told as a kid. The story we were told I would say in the Western world, all know it. It's like your law of the jungle, eat and be eaten, and the first and the second is the first loser. And in that world, every winner needs a loser, and winning and losing is like a function of each other. So, but what I had experiences of was something where everyone could win, and winning and losing wasn't defined by each other, and we wasn't defined by them. It was an including we. So that's what I work with also, and more or less a worldview, so to speak, of how we as people, as organizations and societies can both develop and thrive. Yeah.
Thank you, Stella. And what's your expectations for today's event?
For today's event, I would say very similar to Patrick. I'm totally in sync with you. We're going to co-create a workshop format, more or less, or a workshop which then can be hosted during this event in May. And I believe we will take at least one step, maybe many steps, and maybe all the steps we need. I don't know. So that's what I'm also curious about.
Yeah.
How far can we take this without any yeah, I wouldn't say without any preparations, because in some sense we have been prepared for this for a whole life. And as Bill said, maybe 20, 30 years in a profession also. And yeah.
So this is a little new way of creating concepts, at least for me, and it's a little about meta learning, I will say, and also about this co-creation method. And I also agree with Patrick here. It's very important that we use our collective consciousness here to make this happen here. So we have some output from this event.
Yeah. And just not to get stuck in you having to be like interviewing the rest of us. So if we got the same question to yourself,
what
would
Thank
then
you.
happen?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Sten Lindqvist, living in Malmö, and I'm also worked for within different businesses or industries for at least 20 years and in different roles, both as manager, leader, and business and product developing. The last at least 5 years, I worked more with sustainability. And from a holistic perspective, I try to work with sustainability. So both ecological, social, and economical sustainability. And I work with in a project called Embassy of Sharing, that is a district development project. I'm very interested in how we can create a more sustainable or resilient society, and based on our common learning and common co-creation, I will say. And my expectation for this event is that I'm very curious about how you can co-create things, especially when we do it live, and also inviting other people in this process. And so for me, it's a new way of working, and it's a new way of learning. I'm very curious how we will make it happen in this event, actually.
Yeah, and the interesting thing here is also, I would believe, just to put something extra into it, that next step is already in 3 days. In Tuesday afternoon, there's going to be a new spreading workshop or meta learning on how can we do this openly and transparent as we do now. How can other people learn from the process of creating a workshop? That's interesting.
So that was actually one of the first topics I would like to put on the table here, is that how can we document this event? We are recording it, and maybe also how can we facilitate it in a way that we have a successful outcome. I'm a little curious actually of how you, Bo or Patrick, think about what can be a successful outcome from this event today, or workshop. Maybe we can call it a workshop.
From today, you mean?
Yes. So we can use it for the next step already in 3 or 4 days from now.
Yeah, well, for me, it is successful if we succeed in getting some ideas of how to organize this workshop end of May in a good way, in an inspirational way, in that people joining that workshop or reading about it, that they are become enthusiastic in joining and bringing something themselves to the table. Because I would like also this session end of May to be a sort of co-creation or a sort of community of practice or learning from each other, instead of we giving them information. But I would like to have this community learning event to be a learning community event.
I have an idea then already. When you say that, then in me it pops up questions before answers or something like that.
I was thinking, coming towards this meeting, I was thinking to ask this question to everybody who wants to join the meeting end of May, to bring something to the table, to have some knowledge, some experience, some practices about learning organizations, about living organizations, and it's of course the way we pronounce the question, the way we ask them. But that would be, I think, then we have ownership of everybody. Then we have everybody committed on being there and bringing something to the collective meeting. And that, I would love that. I didn't do that before, but I thought about it, and I think that could be great.
Mm. How does that resonate to you, Bo?
Yes, if we're talking about sort of the Soul Learning Plaza event where we're having at the end of May, we have a practice within Soul since long back, which is called learning by accommodation, also learning by doing. So we have a concept for that. And there has been a lot of discussions exactly how that would work and how it will happen in the place where we are going to be at First of the Week, if that was what we were talking about. So sure, it's really going to be a learning event.
So we have some questions already that we have formulated for ourselves right now. Can we use them in next step also?
Yeah, maybe.
If we couldn't, you have them there.
Yeah, I have them.
You just read them and see what's happening when we hear those questions.
Absolutely. See if I find them.
I think it was on the first paper. There were 3 questions for this workshop.
Yeah, I tried to have it all. Yeah, I think what's the question was actually how to create a workshop embracing human flourishing and the eternal potential.
Yeah, and if you just take away workshop and put in organization, then
yeah, that works.
Could it be that simple? I don't know what the rest of you say. I mean, we have been, just so that everyone knows, if you come into this stream and you see it, or maybe afterwards, is that we have had some dialogue about our worldviews and so on, and we have posted them in the concept. Here you can find it at bestfather.world. There is like a short video where we have 5 people actually. We're missing right now Martin. He couldn't join us, Martin Meima, and so there we presented the worldviews we have, and we were almost baffled, I was at least, that we were so in sync, the 5 of us, and we have come from various perspectives and various experiences, but we have come up with this, not same, but some similar ideas on how to look at the world.
Yeah, definitely.
Can you say the question again?
And read instead of workshop, read the other.
Yeah, we had actually 3 different questions, but the title was how to create an organization embracing human flourishing and the eternal potential.
Yeah, so we just skip workshop and put in organization.
Yeah. Yes.
Is that a relevant question?
Yes, it's a very relevant question. As I have been involved the last 2 years, some 15 different cases, about 15, and the solutions have always been a little bit, it's been different. How to create self-organizing and self-management organizations. So I think it's time to find a generic model, how to visualize such reasons, so that people can be educated in this. How does it look? How to visualize an organization that is not a hierarchy, that is truly self-organizing through a common purpose, a common goal, which everybody buys into. How do you do that? How do you describe and visualize such an organization? So it's clear, because most people are indoctrinated with the hierarchies in their brain. And whatever you talk about, they see hierarchies. So how do you
how do we do that? That's super interesting, Bo, because when I now Martin isn't here, so we can say anything, and he has had to agree on it, but he is working with constellations. What if we have like a constellation, or whatever it's called, when you embody something, maybe something drawn on the floor, and another structure. For instance, I've been engaged in many different organizations, and one of them is based upon the tree metaphor, which is much more living than a machine. So, for instance, you can cut down a tree and you can build a machine. So you can take it from from a living organism into a dead, efficient organizing machine, but you can't take the machine backwards to the tree.
That's true.
Even if it looks like one, it hasn't got life. So maybe that could be something, I don't know. What do you say about such a thing?
Well, some of the project I'm involved in right now, it is really that we are trying to look at the organization like a football field, where we have players with different roles, and they can play, they have a common goal, and they will interact and find how to cooperate and how to cooperate. But it's a playing field. So we're talking about creating a playbook with a player field and rules of the game, with very clear interaction and co-created. So there is no vertical dimension. No one on top and no one below.
No, I understand.
Different roles, different responsibilities, but they are all on a playing field.
Yeah. At some level, I appreciate that kind of a metaphor. But the problem for me is that it's a finite game plan, and you have rules that are set, and you have a set of players. So what I believe is that we should look for a metaphor or some kind of a setup which is maybe more infinite game plan, and maybe also I believe in rules in some sense. I love, for instance, constraints as a way of talking about it, because you can have constraints that are limiting, but you can also have constraints that are enablers.
Exactly.
And I love that. We also talked a little about these guiding principles instead of these rules or this book of rules. That also can be interesting to explore a little around. That not really limiting it so much. I think this is also a little based on this game B theory that we can think about here, if you can combine it with thinking how we can have this more what can we say, that it doesn't stop when the game stops.
I like these guiding principles, but I wonder if they are concrete enough. If I really would like to talk about practical examples, about sharing things with each other. And if we get stuck in guiding principles, then it's for me it's
I understand.
I agree, actually. So could it be interesting to, I mean, we have to decide upon some kind of a structure. So what if we draw a big tree on the ground, and we place ourselves in the tree, everyone that comes, and we share stories. We have to give some kind of story about the tree, but that could be done in a couple of minutes, maybe 4 or 5. And then people can share experiences they have within the tree.
Yeah.
Because there is a very...
I like the idea very much.
Because the tree itself has like a very... there is like the crown, which can be seen as the what's, the products, the results, the whatever you call it. Then we have the stem with the house, the way of working and so on. And then we have the roots with the why and so on. And maybe also the fundamental assumptions in the root system. So that would be an easy way to go from a dead machine metaphor into a living organism, organizational learning. I mean, trees are learning all the time.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, Patrick, there about using these concrete examples, or and maybe you can also combine it. For example, if you have an example of a working practice or something like that, then we can ask about what kind of guiding principle could that create, or what guiding principle did you use when you was successful in that transformation, or what you did there. So then it will be interesting if you can formulate it as a guiding principle afterwards. But then, because then you get some guidelines how to create this playbook with the roles that everyone can do at the same time. So you're starting in the right context, or a more open and exploring context about like the metaphor of the tree. That could be really interesting.
Yeah, because then when we can ask, please share experiences that you have gained during your work life, where you have found yourself thriving, flourishing, and so on. So we can steer it in the living, the life-affirming direction.
Yeah, exactly.
And find those, as you call it, guiding principles or constraints or whatever it is.
Because the examples will make it. That's the good story. We need a good story about how so everyone can understand and use it for their own creation of guiding principles. Because I think these guiding principles should be very personal, so they can bring them home and continue using them in different other contexts. But they have the story with them where it could be used or it was successful.
But couldn't it be, like Bo said in the beginning, it could also be almost generic? I mean, if we find, for instance, the one that we started out with, can we ask questions instead of giving answers? That could be one, and that's quite generic. I mean, it's not useful in every situation, but in most situations, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's very powerful what you just. I have this image before me of this tree and people standing and sharing practical examples of where they were happy in their work and creating value together and at the same time connecting this to these guiding principles. I think that's very powerful, and that gives a lot of insight to everybody present, and perhaps Martijn can do something with the place in the tree, and so perhaps we combine this also with constellations, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really know either. But when I think of it, it could be combined with poetry. When we present the tree, we can do it in a poetic way, or maybe with music, or something that is very concrete and brings feeling into people.
I think the connection between art and business would be interesting here, because if you can use the same metaphor for business as more artistic things, that will be really interesting, because there is a connection between these two areas that
being in harmony
that
or
will
something
be
like that.
very interesting to explore openly in a workshop. But
Oh, now I got an idea. This is interesting. Have you heard when trees are singing? There are some science about this. I just heard it. I haven't dug into it, but
they had special microphones or taking up.
something like that, picking up, and it's very beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Maybe we can use something like that. That would be interesting. How does a tree sound?
Or maybe we can sing ourselves.
Yeah, that's also a possibility. That's also a possibility.
Isn't it a good idea that we draw the tree ourselves, so that we draw the living organization and we define what is the trunk and what are the leaves and what are the.
I love that. Yeah.
So the people.
Yes. You would then need to
define it
have
themselves.
Yes, you will have to have what's the equivalent in a human organization. I have a little bit of a problem with this metaphor with the tree, because when I see a tree, I can really visualize how the system works, how it grows. I can visualize how it absorbs water and nutrients from the roots, how it penetrates this, how the sun is shining on the leaves, and how it's growing vertically, how it's getting higher and higher. I can see that. I can visualize that. But if I take that and try to look into an insurance company or a pharmaceutical company, I can't convert that tree into how they develop new medicines and how they produce whatever they do. So I
can say something about that.
And also, please let me finish, because we have been talking about flat organizations. It should be a flat organization, and perhaps that should be the starting point. What does that look like when an organization is flat? How do you visualize that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
That's why I came up with it, and what has been applied in a couple of cases is really to visualizing the organization as a playing field.
Yeah, I understand what you say, but I don't. Okay, so put it like this: could for instance, when people talk about soft skills, that's when, for me, it's when the hard world haven't got words on human skills. Could it be that a flat organization is the word a hierarchical organization uses on what it doesn't understand? Because what I'm thinking of a tree is the life and the dynamics within in a living organism. Could it be like that?
Yeah, and there actually
But
there
when
are.
when you see 12 players in a football team, it is very much alive.
Yeah.
That's what makes football interesting to look at, because it's alive.
There is, I'm not totally agree that it's only flat organizations we will talk about. Also, because
I
I
just
think,
said the starting point.
yeah, but I think also for me that could be a little misunderstanding of also of this system thinking or systemic thinking, because I don't think it's flat. Actually, I think there are hierarchies also in systemic thinking, and depends on how you also define hierarchy and the need for hierarchy, because that's also striving for something better. Hierarchic system is not only power hierarchy; it's also about the striving for improvement, and so I think it could be interesting to. Also challenging that a little, but I'm not sure. For me it works fine. We'd have this tree metaphor, because I can see it, visualize it. As you say, Bo, I can visualize it, and I also tried to put the different business thinking or leadership thinking into this tree thinking, and it's a holistic perspective of organization using a tree, I think. But maybe there are other metaphors as well that we can use, and we don't need to stop there. We can also explore a little more here. Are there other metaphors? We have this the football game, or the players, and that one as a metaphor, and that's also very useful. It can be useful.
There's another one which is actually used by humans for many centuries, and that's the village as a living organism. So we can maybe in the end give examples of the various metaphors and some maybe pros and cons with them. Again, a tree, it could seem as it doesn't have any consciousness, but right now I think there are researchers that have proved that trees communicate, which is quite obvious. I would say if I would be a tree, I would be interested in my neighbors. But of course, it's hard for us as humans to put ourselves into a metaphor which is so different. But on the other hand, we have put ourselves into a hierarchical metaphor, which is not at all what we humans are made for. So maybe we, as you say, Sten, we can give a wide range of metaphors and what they could add and what their problems might be, or something like that.
The tree is an old symbol for this holistic thinking, the tree of life, and so there is a long historical way of using the tree, maybe, and the football game is a metaphor probably for a war or something. I'm not sure, but that's a way of handling things in a society in a peaceful way. I would say all these kind of games and sports are maybe in some way are used like that.
I'm thinking of something here. Earlier today, I was listening into one of the other concepts. It was about the feminine principles, which has been, I believe, maybe not forgotten, maybe more like pushed away.
Unbalanced.
Unbalanced, and also pushed away in the Western society. Maybe we should add something about that. I don't know what you say, Martin. Sorry, Patrick. About the feminine masculine principle. Have you any ideas on that? How can that be
The family, masculine.
Feminine and masculine principle. I mean, if we look into the systems that we have used in the Western world during the last 200 years, a lot of them have been very masculine in the principles. The hierarchy itself pushes up production, it pushes up also actually cheating. We see a lot of it in many countries around the world, and many companies, and maybe all countries and all companies, some kind of wish of cheating.
Cheating, sorry.
Yeah, cheating. When for instance, if you have like a, I think it was Greta who also said something about this. The systems that we have built are not only competing to each other; they also introducing the possibility of cheating.
Cheating.
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah, now I understand.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. And we have this. We said first we create these cultures and the organization. Then these cultures organize us.
Bo, you had a beautiful story about that a couple of meetings ago. Couldn't you share that? We create organizations and they create us, or something like that. Wasn't you that shared that story?
Yeah, I shared the story.
It was you that shared the story. Sorry, Patrick.
Yeah.
I really enjoy that. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yeah, of course. I'm a fan of. I think a learning culture is the fundament for organization for developing a learning organization, and a learning organization is the foundation for a living organization. So for me, you have to build things up from the bottom, and developing your learning culture makes you don't focus on the learning itself, but you focus on your learning capacity as an organization. So you work on your learning capacity as a whole. In your first question that you said that then there is a relationship between empowerment and developing a learning organization. For me, there is no. It's like the chicken and the egg. So which comes first? Is it first empowerment that needs to be at a high level to get to a learning organization? I don't think so. For me, it's not the chicken or the egg. It's the chicken house. So you have to build the fundament for learning. So if you create this fundament for learning, then everybody will learn, because learning is inside every human being. Learning is inside everybody, and everybody wants to learn. But if you develop learning programs, and then the learning is not coming from the people itself, but it's coming from the organization, and then things get a little stuck. So the best results are there if you organize it. I think I was a little bit. My internet connection is a little bit unstable.
Yeah, but we heard you, and so that's no problem.
Oh, okay. So that's why the living tree really resonates with me, because I like these living examples of organizations as a living thing, and I visualize that, and I really that's really a strong.
Yeah, I have a small exercise that could be the start. This is a little exercise I learned from a colleague of mine called Carl-Johan Liljeroth. It's I think it's almost 10 years ago, and it's very simple. It's like draw a tree. And the thing is that when people draw a tree, they always draw, or almost always draw, what they see. So they already from start are stuck in what can be seen. And it's a good way of unveiling what can't be seen and what can't be measured, the roots and so on. So it's a first transformation happening already there, and then we can use this on the floor, which I believe is very physical, and you get a embodiment of some kind of the how our organization could look like. And then I have a question for us. Could it be of interest that in the end asking questions that how can we transform our system that we have today into this living? So how can we go from machine to something else? The tree, the village, or the football team, or any other metaphor. How can we rearrange it? Because it has to be also real, or maybe it hasn't. I don't know. Maybe it's just a mind trick. I don't know.
Well, Aron Digman has written about there are some 200 companies in the world, organizations in the world, that has truly found alternatives to a hierarchy. They have no hierarchy at all. One of them is Ray Dalio, who was creator of Bridgewater, and he wrote the book called Principles, where he really describes different sorts of empowerment of people, depending on what kind of level of education and what can they contribute to but without being bosses over each other, without any sort of hierarchy. So there are some good examples of how it can be done in different companies, some 200 companies around the world. But still, nobody has created a generic idea how to visualize this. And that is what I was hoping that our event could take this one step forward, to find a way of visualizing this, seeing it as an interaction, as people are co-creating, playing with each other. They have clear mandates, they have clear roles, they have a clear purpose. And with a clear purpose and mandates, they are co-creating. People are that. So
that's right.
So we need some sort of a playing field that
and I believe
see
that
how value is created.
Yeah, I believe that the tree can be that. For me, it's very obvious that the tree has the cells in the tree have different purposes, but the interesting thing that every cell knows the whole. For instance, I'm hosting together with some colleagues. It's not a university course. It's like in Sweden we have a system in between gymnasium and university. It's called yrkeshögskola. I don't know if you have that in, for instance, in Netherlands and so on. But the interesting thing here is that what we have been talking about is that today we have developed specialists, and they don't have any holistic view. And the problem by using, for instance, the word holistic is that no one really knows what that is. So what we have talked about is that we need specialists, but with a generalist view. So they need to know all parts of the tree or all parts of the organization to be able to co-create in that environment
and navigate.
Yeah. So maybe that's something, I don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also think maybe we can go back a little to the main question here also, to just sum up a little. And we have three. We have this title, How to Create a Workshop Embracing Human Flourishing and the Eternal Potential. And then we had also we have three other questions also. Maybe it helps us just get some focus on the thing here, because I think we have talked a little about metaphors and a way of describing the context, I would say. One of the questions was, what does the desired outcome look like, and how does it relate to system thinking? That could be interesting to bring in here, maybe.
Then I have a interesting thing, and that is connecting to the fruits of the tree. What if we have, for instance, leaders standing, looking at the apples of the tree and shouting, "Grow"?
Yeah, that might happen. Yeah,
It is happening.
it is happening. I will say, but
The
and
shouting is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, the shouting is happening,
And-
but not,
and
nothing.
growing
None of the apples are growing.
No.
the second question here was, what learning principles do we like to explore and why?
Wow.
And the why here, I think, is really interesting, because we are not really saying why we like this change.
Yeah.
Maybe that can be also a good way of starting this workshop. That
The check-in.
A check-in.
Wow.
That why are we doing this? Why is it needed? How does it resonate to you? Your worldview. We talked about our worldview. Are we agreeing about that the worldview we have today is the one we want to have? Maybe we need to ask us that question in a check-in. So because otherwise we might just go for the what and how.
But to me, that is extremely clear why we are doing this, because I'm convinced that we can create organizations where people really thrive and flourish, and at the same time, that will be very efficient and very competitive. It can be both these things. And I've seen an example on it, and this is the model for the future, where you really create organizations where everybody is truly learning, and they really become, the organization as such becomes highly competitive and highly efficient, while being very interesting to work with, having an interesting purpose where people thrive and flourish. That can be done.
Yeah. I
know, Bo, but not everybody is in. There are other perspectives also, not only focused on making money or performing in an optimal way. So there are organizations that create value in a quite a different way, and where people are happy and feel they belong. So I think this why certainly is the starting point from everybody to be present. I think everybody that will join the workshop already has this motivation why he or she will be there, and is triggered by this why, and has his own why. But I think it's worth sharing these ideas with each other very much. I would appreciate it.
Yeah, maybe I don't know how many people that will attend the 31st May. Totally there will be maybe hundreds. I don't know, but for us, for our learning circle, so maybe we should put together some ideas that are working both if there are 20 and if there are 200. So maybe we should have it in small dialogue groups, maybe 3 or 4. It's easier to share that, and if we have that, then we are also securing that every person is heard, and that's for me very powerful when talking about learning, and that we acknowledge people's wish of being heard and listen that.
I also know, Stella, that you have some experience of doing this workshop model, that what we call it, new glasses for the new paradigm. That also visualizes our different worldviews, and also and so we can challenge it, or we can at least agree on the need for a
What I'm thinking of was actually when I think it was you, Patrick, earlier here said something about we need some kind of a, or maybe it was you, Bo, some kind of a guide. Could we already in beforehand put together maybe not much more than a single paper with maybe links to books representing maybe various different maybe not worldviews, but organizing structures that we know already exist. You mentioned, Bo, 200 companies. I believe there are more. We know that there are new ways of organizing that are coming up in the recent years and so on, and maybe we can just bullet point them and bring a direction for it, and then we could also add this in the end of it, the thing you just mentioned, that could be also something in that
maybe we can share both experiences and both knowledge about different organizations or some case, or what we can call it, stories about successful ways of thinking in this new paradigm.
Yeah, but maybe not too complicated, because if we put down 50 words on each, then we have a big work to do. Maybe we should go for the links and maybe 1 or 2 sentences.
So
at
more like
maximum.
more like an inspiration.
More like an inspiration, and not this is the way. It's more like this could be done this way. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Well, I agree with that. It should really be. It should be learning by accommodation, not telling people what not giving the solutions. So we can mention some examples that some have done. So I don't know, but when I said that organizations they really should be sort of competitive and effective, I don't mean making money. I'm meaning having a purpose that people really want to be a part of, to make a good contribution for the world, solve the sustainability problem. You have to be efficient in doing that, but if you can do that in an organization where people thrive and flourish at the same time, that is really what we want to find a generic model for doing that.
I know, Stella, you used to have some saying there about and
the both and is there the either or?
yes, that one. It's not so easy.
It's both and. It's both and.
Both and, yeah. And to explain it to people, you have to actually explain also what happens if we separate. So both and is a way to not separating.
Yeah.
And
that's also an important thing, I will say, to bring up in this dialogue here, is about try to find a way that we're not separating things or make this polarization of things, and how can we do that? And that then we need to have a living system, I think, in some way.
I agree.
Maybe you have something more that you can
just
explain about that.
Okay, so duality only exists if you accept it, and non-duality is also again, why call it non-duality? Oneness could be the word or something, I don't know, but so here we probably go into again different worldviews, and you mentioned you could use, for instance, the glasses to but I would say it could be even more powerful to line up maybe 3 or 4 again in the end, in this one sheet. Here we have 4 different organizational types that are not today the dominant. So how can we make those more dominant and making the machine less dominant? Maybe. Or something like that.
If I go back to my old practices during my industrial time, I really spent about the first month walking around, talking with everybody, and trying to understand the system. How does the system work? Who is talking to whom, and how is this whatever we deliver that someone pays for? How does the system work? And it has always taken me about a month or something like that to really understand the system. And the organizational chart I was given by the board coming in was of no use whatsoever. I found something else, that how is this working? How is people connecting? How are we really creating what we are doing? And of course, I got an internal understanding of how that system worked, but I never found a good generic way of painting a picture on it to explain to everyone else. So that's what I'm looking for.
So let's hope that we can at least give some new examples with maybe 3 or 4 metaphors, and using the 3 metaphors again. I believe if we end up the workshop in May with some checkout, then that should be for me, that checkout should be, how can we do what you just said? How can I find some internalizing? How can I do to make it mine?
Yeah, I think if that could be, sorry, Boo.
On June 1st, we will have a visit to a company in Stockholm that has been working with self-organizations the last 5 years. So we will have the morning session on June 1st.
And what is
the CEO there?
What is the name of the company?
Tennant and Partners.
Okay.
Interesting.
Super interesting.
Torbjörn Eriksson is the CEO there. I'm going to meet with him on April 13th. to really set up the visit there.
So for you people who are right now following the stream here and you hear this, you can sign up for the Sol event in end of May, beginning of June, 31st of May and 1st of June. And what Bo is referring to now is like also a possibility to join for those study visits or whatever we call it. I don't know exactly how the program looks like, but
It's both. So if anybody wants to join the event, have these 2 days, the 31st and the 1st.
And also a possibility, of course, to join the organization called SOL, Society of Learning. And how many, maybe you, Patrick, how long have you been engaged in the organization, and when did it come to Netherlands?
Well, I've been connected since 2005, so for 17 years already. And it was Peter Senge and some colleagues, but also Arie de Geus from the Netherlands, who set up SOL in the beginning, in the years 90. And but we were one of the first countries connected to SOL International. So it's a long way.
If you should say something little more about the organization and the purpose with the organization, so we can also maybe adding more information about the event later on, Bo. But if you, Patrick, can just say a little more about the SOL organization, but because I think it's this what we try to design today is it will happen there on the 31st of May, actually, in Stockholm. So
well, we are SOL is located in more than 20 countries all over the world. And in the Netherlands, we have a very powerful development team, and for instance, we talk about learning human beings, learning teams, learning organizations, learning society. So those are the 4 things we focus on. And for that, we also have learning culture and learning leadership as very important insights. So as SOL, we work on these 6 fields, and we connect them. Because for SOL, system thinking is very important, that we see the whole. We have this integral vision of the whole, and not seeing the parts as individuals.
Yeah. Maybe Bill, you can add some information about the event, so everyone get that information here.
Yes, so I can also mention I joined SOL at the end of the 90s, and so I've been a part of that. And we also arranged a very similar event as we're having now, exactly 10 years ago. So this is sort of 10th anniversary for us in SOL Sweden mainland. So I'm a member of the SOL Sweden board, and I'm also a member of the Global SOL, sort of the international Global SOL, that we connect the different communities throughout the world. I'm a member of that board. And what we are really trying to build up now is sort of a network of networks, because each country community is sort of a network, and now we're trying to combine that so we have networks of networks. And of course we can see that as a system, and as a matter of fact, it's a very similar way we would look at any organization.
Maybe we should. Thank you very much. Maybe we should wrap up the conversation for today. There are new concepts that want to stream for this.
Yeah, I understand.
Should
we have discussed today, or in this, I think very interesting dialogue about different kind of metaphors today, and try to agree about some kind of basic for that. Metaphor we need to use as the context, or for the for the event.
Yeah.
I will say.
Yeah, and also some. I believe the intent you said here, Patrick, is for me when I look back on the last hour. I believe we have stepwise, more or less. First, we want to draw the tree, and then we want to stand in the tree and share the stories, and we want to put them into the context of our own lives, and then working lives, and then we share some ideas on what could be generic principles, guiding principles, and then we have some kind of a checkout on how to make it our own system in some sense.
Yeah, I think you summarize it really good, Stella, because that's a process. How you're starting with this more open and exploring way of what a living system could be, or a systemic thinking could be, and then I think it's okay to put in different ideas about the football play, or the hierarchic system, or
the
a
village,
flat organization, or the
yeah.
village here. I think that's could be interesting to have as just an input in the dialogue of the event as well. If we can agree about having like a fundament of what how in the starting point. And I know, Bo, you said that flat organization as a starting point. That's one way of seeing it, and maybe that's also good if we can. We can bring that up and see that there is different ways of look at this, and there are different ways of having the starting point, because I know it's different to have some kinds of metaphors are different to have a starting point when you have a dialogue in the traditional industry. But they need to be a little mature about how this kind of thinking are. So that there need to be different ways of meeting other organizations as well. So.
And next thing that will happen for us as a design team is that we're going to meet with the rest of the Soul organization on Tuesday, and people are welcome also to join there. And then we will bring up these ideas we have. This is how we want to do it, and this is how we made the workshop, because the meta learning again is very interesting. I believe we have come to a point, if we just can do a checkout, did my intent was the intent creating what I wanted? Is that a possibility for a checkout?
Yeah, it is.
Who will start?
Yeah, I really liked the way we did this. Thanks for the invitation, and I like the idea of I visualize the meeting right now, so that's good. That's good. I can see what we're gonna do, and what it will bring, and what it will bring the participants, and what they will bring to the workshop, and have their I can see it. I can see it. So that's the most important outcome for me. Thanks.
Yes, thank you very much. And that's perhaps a question we can start with is just ask people, what do you see when you look at an organization? Some people might see a tree, sometimes they see a playground, sometimes just say, what do you see? And try to encourage people to elaborate on that. What do you see? So that's a good start.
That's a great question, Bo. I think really good one.
Yeah, and we put it into you made some notes, and we have this recording. We can also watch it through once more and so on as a preparation for Tuesday. And I can go next then. So for me, it has been like a fantastic hour of co-creation, and also of tapping into some collective wisdom here, represented by the four of us, and maybe also some kind of a I don't know, a meta consciousness or something, which is I mean, we have pushed this into an hour. That's interesting. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, I also think this was a great experience of co-creation and meta learning, and I will try to summarize at least some questions from it that we can use in a next step. And we have also this recording as a documentation that can be used here. So thank you very much for joining it.
Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
We are creating the world we're now living in. We are competing in. We are repeating in. We are believing in. It's time for us to shift our mind from best in the world to best for the world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. It creates a new world to mind a shift, intentionality, perceptuality, conceptuality. We are choosing to shift our mind to best for the world, best for our world. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional. Make decisions intentional, to take decisions intentional, making decisions intentional.